Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Businessroom podcast here in Bologna, Italy. I am with a special guest that is coming from a very, very interesting industry, and I'm very curious about what are we gonna discuss today. And I'm gonna leave Jasper to tell us more about what he's doing and what incredible things he has to offer to Europeans in general. Jasper, thank you so much for accepting our invitation, and please tell our public, what do you do for a living?
What do you do?
What do you do? Yeah.
Yeah, so we are working on TerraSpark, and so TerraSpark is a effort to go and help solve the energy crisis. We do that by harvesting energy in space and bringing that energy back down. Now, that might all sound very science fiction,
A bit.
a little bit, but this is actually a concept that's really old. It's a concept from the 70s. It's called space-based solar power. It is actually very well studied. And so, yeah, we are doing a commercial version of that. So we are building space-based solar power from out of Europe. So that's what we are doing.
And how everything started? How did TerraSpark start? Because I know that your founders are, let's say, they have a cultural background that's a bit diverse. You are from different parts of Europe.
I love how you democratically put that. When people see us in the bar, they kind of probably assume this is like a Tinder date that went wrong. So how did this start? Oh my. So I've been bootstrapping a company for the last 10 years. And I started looking at energy since 2021. That's when I knew that I was becoming a dad, right?
Okay.
And I've always thought about this, we need more energy. And so I love things like geothermal, I love things like fusion. But it was only last year that I've realized that more energy alone won't actually solve the problem. So last year we had a blackout in Spain. I don't know if you remember that. And so the entire Spain and Portugal, we were out of energy for 8 hours. And I'm not going to lie, the first 8 hours kind of felt like a forced holiday. It was great. We were doing a barbecue. But when the energy went back on, the connection to my village actually got disconnected. And we ended up for an entire week without energy. So with my two small children, an entire week without energy is a bit of a shit show, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where I realized that yes, having more energy is important, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it is very valuable. So we need to be able to have energy where and when we need it. And a good example is 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, the cost of energy in Germany was minus 500 euro per megawatt hour. That's not really useful, right? So we need energy where and when we need it. And so I started looking for solutions, and I came to space-based solar power. And then from there, how we met the co-founders was actually very, bit maybe weird, but I went to ChatGPT and I actually asked who in the world would be the one person that can build this.
Okay.
And the name that popped up for me was Dr. Sanjay Vijendran,
Okay.
who is now our co-founder and CTO at TerraSpark. He comes with 20 years of experience from the European Space Agency, has put hardware on Mars, has led the Mars Sample Return mission, and has been working on Solaris, which is the program of space-based solar power from the European Space Agency. So Sanjay is the brains. Matthias, I got introduced by a mutual friend of ours. He is the operator. So Matthias has built not one unicorn, he has built two.
Okay.
He was the co-founder and CTO of Just Eat Takeaway. Then he went to become the co-founder and CTO of Tier Mobility. And now he's delivering energy from space. So delivering pizzas to delivering vehicles to now delivering energy. It makes sense, right? When you think about it.
Yeah.
So he's the operator and I'm clearly the good looking one. So, that's the three of us as a team.
Okay, and I want, if you can help me to, simplify the concept
Yeah.
and make our viewers understand, as simply as you can, how everything works from you.
Yep.
What do you mean you're taking, like solar energy from above the skies and bring it back to Earth? And how is everything working?
Yeah. So actually, let's start with the concept we already know, right?
Yeah.
Let's start with the solar panel on Earth. Solar is incredible. Why? Because the sun is free. We just need to be really good at capturing that energy.
Yeah.
Now, solar today on Earth has a couple of problems, and these problems have to do with the weather and day and night cycles. So it's very hard to predict the weather, and thus solar energy is not necessarily baseload energy. It's very hard to make that baseload energy. Not impossible, but very hard. Now, how do we improve solar? Well, imagine that solar would be 24/7.
Okay.
Okay, then it would be firm energy, free fuel, right? Like the sun is essentially free, and it would be actually green energy, which is also an important angle. So how do we achieve that? Well, what if we capture the sunlight above the clouds? What if we go to space? So if we put the solar panel in space, you can harvest the energy constantly. So that's already how, by the way, every single satellite today works, right? So satellites are powered by solar panels. Now the question then becomes, how do you bring that energy back down? Now there's various ways to do that. We can do this with mirrors. We can reflect sunlight back to Earth. We can do this with lasers, or you can do this with radio frequency. Now, each one of these ways have their own merits. We chose for radio frequency because we are trying to solve the problem of getting energy where and when you need it. And so you need a weather independent solution. Radio frequency is the only one that is weather independent. So we went for radio frequency. So you convert the sunlight into DC power, convert it to radio frequency, you beam that energy down to Earth, where you capture it, and then you convert it back. Now that sounds very technical. In other ways, how does that work? Very similar to a telecom satellite. We are already beaming radio frequency. Your phone is connected in that way. So we are using similar technology to actually bring energy back down from space to Earth.
And what are your clients? who are your clients?
Yeah, so that depends a little bit. Initially, space-based solar power, which again is a concept from the 70s, it kind of, in our opinion, in TerraSpark got stuck because people are trying to jump to the end goal. And so the question that they would ask is, how do we deliver the largest amount of power or largest amount of energy at the cheapest cost? Now, that is a very good question, right? Because that is your end goal. That's where you want to work towards. The problem with that question is that you need to go and build something in space that's just humongously big and costs a lot of money. What we did is we asked the different. We asked, what is the smallest commercially viable space-based solar power company that we can build that is commercially viable and scalable? So yes, by going to low Earth orbit, the cost of energy is higher. However, that does not necessarily mean that there are no customers. So we focus initially on things like off-grid. So off-grid mining is a good example. In off-grid mining, the last 10-15% of that energy is very hard to get. So normally the solution is something along the lines of a diesel generator. We focus on remote islands. Remote islands like Curacao, they literally run on diesel and fossil on a jet engine, right? So that's probably not the best way of doing it. So we go first for those premium customers. And then we actually go and scale one orbit at a time, which allows us to go and serve more customers, more markets, bit by bit.
Okay, that it seems like it's very complex, and it's very intriguing, especially for me as a space passionate. My next question is if you are willing to remain in Europe or expand globally. Like, what are your plan on this?
Yeah. So we are based in Luxembourg. I'm originally from Belgium. I live in Spain. Then we have Matthias that is German that is moving to Barcelona, but also is in Luxembourg. We have Sanjay that is actually from the UK, but is living in the Netherlands, but we work in Luxembourg. In other words, we are already a European company, right? Like by nature. Um, Look, there's a lot of things that we could care about, and there's a lot of things that we should not care about. Energy resilience and energy sovereignty for Europe is one of those topics that we should care about. It is one of the reasons why the three founders of us, we are doing this to give it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And so we are building this from out of Europe because yes, you can go and build big things from out of Europe. Sometimes you do need a bunch of idiots like us to like do that, but can go and build big things from out of Europe. And the skills are here. Like it's a matter of getting the will to drive there. And so we are driving that right now.
Okay. And how do you see your company in the next 5 years, let's say?
Oof. Yeah, so in the next 5 years, so then we are 2031, we will have the first commercial systems up, and we will already be powering energy from space down to Earth. So we will already be powering to customers, and we will be the global leader on energy from space.
Okay, that's cool. Do you think there is anything else our viewers need to know about you and the product that you're building and the solar system or stuff like that? Like an
Solar
interesting
system.
facts.
Sounds like science with Jasper, right? Like, no, I think, look, there's a lot of things that sound insane initially, right? But I think the trick is to work through it, to go and figure out what are those individual components that we want to go and build. And whether you're building in AI, whether you're building in hardware, in deep tech, or whatever it is, I think for us, the main learning, which could also be learning maybe for the rest, is how can we break it down to the single component that needs to be true. And so for us, that is the wireless power transfer. So I think whenever you are building and you are building with a big vision, go and do it. I think that's one. And then second, try to find the smallest version of that to start.
Do you think will I ever have the chance to, have this system that you're building inside my pocket, like to use it as an individual?
Probably not, because the ground receivers are about the size as a industrial solar farm. Unless, I don't know, your house, obviously, you might have like a massive mansion, but no, so it is an industrial solar farm. So it is really an energy utility assets that we're building.
Okay, okay. Okay, and one last question, because you're one of the finalists of WMF 2026. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about, being here in Italy, pitching your startup, pitching your idea? What do you think makes you different from the rest of the people in here?
Yeah. So I think from out of our industry, space-based solar is not an old concept. We've now established that. But it's a concept that has not had the right communication around it. It hasn't been really front and center. Many people don't know that this was an option, right? And more than being a finalist, it is being able to share that this is an option that we can work on within a big audience. And the more that we as an industry are doing this, the more support that it will be, right? And so for me, it's less about being in the final, wonderful. It's about we are sharing that message on what we are building with a very large audience. And I think that can only be well.
But what are people's perspective on what are you doing, like when they first hear of TerraSpark?
Yeah, so most people initially go like, that is absolutely insane. Why the hell would you want to do that? Then you go and explain the actual value propositions about getting energy where and when you need it. Then they understand why it's important. Then it becomes but how would you even do that? Then you start working through the de-risking and explaining this step by step. And then actually, the more that people start understanding the concept, the more that they start supporting. But it's getting that concept out there in the first place.
Okay. Okay, then I think We are wishing you the best of luck into this competition and for spreading this, this incredible concept around the world, based in Europe. And for you, if you want to find more about TerraSpark and what they are doing, you're going to find more information down in our description box. And thank you so much for watching another episode of Business Room Podcast. We are heading back to the event. Thank you.
Thank you.